thank you for this opportunity to meet and to serve our city. Lord, I just thank you that in your word it says that by the blessing of the righteous, the city is exalted, and the mouth of the wicked is overthrown. Lord, I pray that everyone in this room, their hearts will be turned to you. We know that righteousness comes through the Lord Jesus and your sacrifice. We submit ourselves under your hand, and we ask for that blessing. We would be ones to carry that blessing and look for ways to bring our city into the blessing of God that is already around us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Mayor Williams.
Here.
Councilor Burke.
Here.
Councilor Berger.
Here.
Councilor Ian Smith.
Here.
Councilor Kristen Smith.
Here.
Councilor Taylor. Do you see him?
He is not
No.
on here. I do have an unidentified iPad. I don't know if that's one of them or...
And Councilor Zimmerman. Roll call is complete, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. With 4 people, we still have a quorum. Has anyone heard from Brian? Okay. So, welcome everyone here tonight. Welcome those who are online. I do have 2 announcements. One, I did put out the letter informing us that we did get the $40,000 planning grant for our wastewater PER. We're waiting on word for one more grant, and I'm really excited that we'll be able to start that process. The other announcement is that our next meeting is February 18th. January 17th is a holiday. Our office will be closed, and we'll move our meeting to the Tuesday, the 18th. Does anyone else have any announcements? Okay. Then we'll move on to approved minutes of regular council meeting 1669 on January 21st, 2025.
Make a motion we approve the minutes.
Second.
Okay. Does anyone on council have corrections, additions, comments? Okay. Any public comment on the minutes of January 21st? Any public comments on the minutes of January 21st? Public comments? Then I would, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Those minutes are approved. You can take just a minute and unmute Dean. Or ask Dean to unmute. Move on to the city administrator's report.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council. Went back down to Helena last Wednesday. Showed up on Thursday, and they had bumped several cities back because they were going over there a lot of time, and there was a lot of questions from the Long Range Planning Committee. I was there early, so I got to know the Sergeant at Arms, the usher, and the DNRC, and the chair, so I was able to get bumped up to right after the first break, so I didn't have to wait until Friday. Brief went over very well. I asked them if they'd heard enough data. They laughed and said they had, and I said, let's keep it short and simple. I explained what the problem was, what the grant would do, and then I said, Libby doesn't believe we should come here, hat in hand for money, unless we can explain to you how we're going to try to stay out of this in the future. And I explained our capital improvement plan. I explained everything we've been doing here in Libby. They really appreciate it, and I was the only one that didn't get asked any questions. They think the time I headed out. Right now, I've also been working on kind of closing out ARPA Pot B. If you remember, we had Pot A, and we did the water line up at Cabinet Heights. And we also did all new police radios there. Must have been about 4 years ago now. We're starting to close out Part B, which was a minimum allocation grant. And with that, what we've done is the bar screen and the sewer mains and the plant controllers for all the matching funds. FCC. We had 2 channels, one for the police and one for our streets crew, and we found out they were stepping on each other, so we actually went out and got another frequency on that. A couple weeks ago, we got authorized for 40 watts, but I got a call the other day, and we were causing interference with Canada, so they knocked us down and approved us for 5 watts now. Good thing is that we've already been operating on the 5 funds. We don't need the 40 watts, simply because of all the mountains that wouldn't help us anyway, so we're good to go on that. They've been jetting a lot of the lines right now. And there's been quite a few cemetery digs, which is hard because we got about 2 feet of frozen soil out there, which is causing some issues. We've been re-inventorying a lot of stuff at the shop and all the sheds to make sure we got everything located. We're doing a lot of maintenance on the sweepers and the vac trucks so that we'll be ready to go for spring since we haven't been plowing. Frozen water lines right now. This bitter cold weather really affects us a lot. If you notice, Louisiana and 6th, we had water running down the streets the other day. You got 2 mains going in 2 different directions, and years ago they just welded some 45s in there and kind of made it work at the time with the money they had. Well, you can stick your finger through the hole now, so it's literally just spraying out. So we're going to have to redo that whole intersection of those pipes there. The good thing is we're going to prep it for future, so when we replace the mains, that part will already be done. There was another big one out on Pioneer Road, which is out the old Mahoney Acres. It got so cold it literally blew the end cap right off the pipe. So we traced that back and we're able to replace that. Back up first to Montana, we got another big slug the other day, so when we can, we're going to get the cameras out and see if we can't trace. We're now getting rubber gloves, so we think we might be able to narrow down some of the culprits for that and get that taken care of. People have been calling about plowing. Why aren't we? Why aren't we? Let you know, basically this was a nuisance snow where it's not quite enough to get out to plow, but it is a pain in the butt. They are prepping up right now because we're supposed to get a storm through tonight and tomorrow morning through the afternoon. So we are prepping up for Wednesday morning, being out there plowing. So just remind everybody, from 4 in the morning to 8 in the morning, they're going to be plowing north and south, so the vehicles need to be moved. And then from 8 to 12, they're going to do east to west on the plowing, so that will be coming up here in the next 2 days. And that's my brief, Madam Mayor and Council.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. Sykes? Okay, there's no fire report with Brian's absence. A police report?
Mayor's Council, in January we had 194 calls this year, compared to last year's 220. We responded to 5 assaults, 9 disturbances, 5 calls for threatening, 2 drug or alcohol related cases, 8 thefts, 5 mental health calls, 38 welfare checks or walkthroughs, 5 juvenile calls, 12 suspicious activity calls, 10 crashes, and 41 traffic stops. So we stay pretty busy, and a lot of the things that we are working on a lot is that proactive caretaking of making sure we're getting out there and trying to find people who are in need of help. So we're being very busy. We're going to keep pushing forward with that. So, any questions?
In light of the status of the crisis team being in limbo, is that affecting your folks being able to?
Yes and no. The hospital is still doing a good job of mitigating that. We're able to take anybody who is having a mental health crisis to the hospital where they are receiving treatment. Last weekend there was a big incident with that. The person we were involved with was able to get treatment as well as get additional help. So we do have those services. It's a little bit more work for us, but because the hospital is taking over the crisis response team, we're really excited for them to move forward with that. So it is working through, working out some kinks, but it hasn't caused any problems for us.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Ordinances?
No.
Okay, zoning commission? Finance?
I do have one announcement, Madam Mayor, Council. I was telling you guys, I was excited. They were already asking for a needs list for the audit this right before Christmas. Well, come to find out, we're federal audit this year. So our audit has to be done by March 31st. So I just received an email last week that they're starting on our federal side of it, and I think that's about our last needs list. So we should be seeing that hopefully pretty soon.
Thank you. Local Government Study Commission.
Madam Mayor and Council, DC order reside at 1117 Nevada Avenue. So So, Study Commission is working its first phase, which is the examination of local government, the form and function of local government, and trying to determine whether or not we have the best form of government for what we're doing in Libby and how it is functioning. We had some great public involvement at the last meeting. We're getting better organized. So far, the areas of interest that we're hearing about are water and sewer rates and how they relate to low-income protections and affordable housing. Of course, you guys knew that that'd be an issue. Council transparency in the public record is an issue. The continuing police problems and the attorney influence in the police commission regarding the retaliation that was identified when the 3 officers quit. That seems to still be an issue. I will be starting a minority report for public consumption on the dysfunction of council keeping a transparent public record, which accurately informs the public and allows public participation as required by the Montana Constitution and your oath of office. Recent debate on the distracted driving ordinance provides a wealth of information regarding this dysfunction that goes back early last year before we had this commission. It's continuing right up until the last meeting. There was an approval of 3 different meeting minutes, and I claim that these constitute a violation of MCA 45-7-208, which is tampering with the public record. Now, that was by only 4 members who voted to support that. The minutes claimed council, quote, council majority did not mind revisiting the distracted driving ordinance on a future agenda. And on January 21st, Mayor Williams gave an executive directive to split 16, 64, 66, and 67 into 3 separate approvals so as not to violate constitutional rights. Council President Zimmerman violated that executive directive with a motion to lump all 3 in one vote. Councilman Taylor questioned the mayor and she waffled. Councilman Taylor and Councilman Ian Smith voted no on the approval. Those are the members with military and law enforcement background. They refused to join into the action. Public record should show that those minutes contained a bald-faced lie which violates Montana Code tampering with the public record. Now, the legislators took that so seriously that they put a 10-year prison confinement or a $50,000 fine on that violation.
Mr. Orr, was all this discussed at the local government committee?
Madam Mayor, will you keep order in your meeting? Thank you.
What's
I
the committee
believe her
report?
point of order is approved. I would question, did you discuss all of this in your government study committee?
I think if you were listening, you would see I'm putting it in my minority report.
Well,
That will
I
be
think
sent
you should
to the
get to the
public.
point of what you discussed in the meeting.
Are you just trying to distract me? Because it's work.
No, I'm not trying to distract you.
Then
I'm telling
allow
you
me
to
to
get to the
speak.
point
Keep
or
order
sit
in your meeting.
down. Sit down. Is that enough
Yeah.
order? Thank you.
Yeah.
Move on to our first order of
Violating the
business,
public rights again.
which is the Blackburn request for the use of Riverfront Park. It had been my intention to put this into the building committee for the simple reason that I think it needs some concentrated discussion. Mr. Taylor had agreed to do that. But I personally, because of the large size of the property requested, the low rent he's willing to pay, and the potential for conflict for other users. I'm not in favor of approving this. So if that is the majority opinion, you can, we will deal with it at the next meeting, okay?
I would like to see it go into the building committee.
I'm sorry?
I would like to see it go into the building
Okay.
committee.
Yes, I agree.
Okay. Okay, then that's what we will do. Which brings us to our new business. I have asked Dean to unmute because I sent him across this afternoon to be able to tell us about the process if we should choose to donate this land to the county. Everyone got the copy of their request?
Yes.
Is there any discussion or questions you would like to have?
Madam Mayor, if I could
Yes.
throw one thing in
Yes.
here. I seen this request come across the desk, and I've been looking at our sewer plant and our street shop, how they're combined. And I understand in the future that we may very well need a secondary ox ditch with more drying beds, another clarifier along with another screw press in order to handle population growth. The only spot that we have with land available would be that property across the river. The snow dump is already there where we're dropping off gravel. And I just believe that if we were to give away this property, we might be injuring ourselves in the future. So I'd be hesitant for the council to give away this property. That's just in my opinion out there.
Okay. Some background on the animal control and city-county cooperation. This dates back to the 70s. I've read through a whole lot of minutes. There doesn't seem to ever have been a contract or anything other than a verbal agreement that the city had the land, the county had the building, and they combined the two. I approached the county a year ago to put together a contract. They were kind of hesitant, never wanted to really address it. And then about a month ago or so, they said they just wanted us to donate them the land. And I said, you'll have to put together a proposal to take to council. And so that is kind of the background as I know it.
Well, I don't see that the city would ever be putting effluent next to this little building. That doesn't
No,
make
they would
sense.
kick the street shop out to move across and build a new street shop to make room at the sewage plant for the drying beds and the ox ditch.
In other words, he's saying we need that property to potentially move the street department so that the sewer wastewater can expand into the space they use.
This tiny little spot where the animal shelter is.
No, we own quite a bit of property there.
Well, right, but the county's just asking for this area around.
An acre.
And there's that power line moving through there we can't build on. There's that large old dump that we cannot build on top of or anything. So actually the land's kind of limited the way I see it to where you'd have an entry and an exit. We wouldn't have that much building space to put in there. So that would hamper us where we could build.
I'm going to ask Mr. Chisholm to speak to the process if we should choose to dispose of this building to the property to the county.
Yeah, there's actually a couple of routes. I would note I haven't seen documents relating to the prior ownership, etc. But it isn't usual for someone to own a building on someone else's land. So unless there's some documentation, it would be presumed that the building belonged to the city as well. I'm not sure if that matters much in this context, but so there's a couple of avenues. You know, the general process we've used before when we've sold property would work. So we publish notice and we have the hearing, and it has to be approved by 2/3 of the council, etc., or by a 2/3 vote anyway. And that's the general provision for when the city wants to sell, dispose of, donate, or lease any property that it owns. But there's also another process kind of unique to this situation, and that's when you transfer property, including real property, between certain governmental entities, you can dispense with some of those notice provisions. That the language of the statute indicates that that applies to a sale or a trade. It appears that seller trade includes, just transferring with minimal or no consideration. So it probably could be utilized in this situation as well. And in that case, there would just need to be a resolution after a finding that the property no longer served sufficient city interests and that it could be transferred. So those are the couple of mechanisms that could be used.
Thank you.
I would note, I wasn't asked this question, but of course we wouldn't want to be put in a situation of transferring property or funds to anybody on the basis of them getting a grant unless they'd already got a grant. And so, if you choose to move forward at some level with this, I'd recommend that we use some sort of mechanism that we give a letter of intent that, assures whoever the grantor is that we'll transfer the property upon successful approval of the grant. But I don't think we should be transferring property before there's, already that end of the problem taken care of.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Well, I guess I'm still struggling to understand what we would do in that place where there's a building already. I mean, the request is basically for the footprint around the building.
With that acre, it would cut out, the goal would be to use the building or a new building there as office spaces, build the shop, the parking would be there. We can't build on top of or underneath that power lines. KPFL's in this large area, so we'd be able to use, coming in almost where a city shop, or off the county shop road, have an entry and an exit point to where our vehicles be able to stage, build a new mechanic shop, and then we have a little bit more storage over here because there's no other place to go to. We don't have any more city property.
So what if we suggest to the county that they relocate the shelter near KPFL?
That would be an idea. It's just, I'm very hesitant about giving away property when we don't have any more and there's no more we can just go get our hands on.
Was there any discussion about a swap?
No, there was not.
I mean, is there any land the county has that the city would be interested in? I mean,
Mr. Sykes is saying behind us.
that would be, I think, part of the conversation. County has a lot of land. There's something that would be beneficial to the city. So those are two things I think. I think it's important to support the animal shelter. We've heard before that our whole animal issue is very difficult to sustain. And being the largest city in the county, I think it'd be beneficial to continue to partner with the county as much as possible. So if there's not an issue that Mr. Sykes identified for them to move the building closer to KPFL, which is right, it's kind of like and like together, working together, then look at some other land.
I think they have other land they could probably use. They just choose to take that easier way out. Ms. Berger, you had your hand up.
Yeah, so it's my understanding this actual building looks like they need to completely tear it down. So
that is their goal.
The other two animal shelters, are they, and they've been dealing with the animals for quite some time now, haven't they?
There's only one, KPFL.
KPFL is an adoption center.
Yeah, but they have the adoption center and then the one where the other animal place used to be, that's their auxiliary now.
And that's the one we're talking about,
That's the
discussing.
one okay,
That's
that's
the
what.
county, that's the
That's
pound,
county.
it's the dog pound.
I'm not in
And-
favor of
and
giving
that
away
building,
land.
That building is in such bad shape, they want to remove it and put in a new one.
I'm not opposed, or I mean, I am opposed to giving away land. But I think if they continue to lease it, I don't think a grant would be a problem for the building. But they would have to own the land to make a building there. I don't
Okay.
think that that's a problem.
Melissa, do you have a comment?
Just was saying that they're saying they have to own the land before they can get a grant.
Yes.
But I like the idea of possibly swapping land if there's something beneficial to the city.
Okay.
Yeah, seeing as the county pays my bills, I'm gonna abstain from all conversation and voting.
Okay. Now, my question is, would you prefer to put this also in the building committee? Or would you prefer to discuss it as a council as a whole in the next meeting?
We could all discuss it. I don't know.
Okay.
Does it matter if we discuss it or if it goes to the building committee?
Well, the building committee is just going to discuss it
And then
and bring
send
a
it back.
Bring a recommendation back.
to council as a whole.
I think we're just making an extra step then if we
Okay.
send it to building.
Okay, then we will continue the discussion at the next meeting. Are there any public comments on the request to donate this building, or this property? Sorry, excuse me.
John Beebe, 704 East 9th. Good evening, council. Thanks for letting me speak. This issues with city property and stuff has come up over and over, and it seems like we deal with them in a individual basis. And I would hope that this is citizens' property too. This is all of the people, by the people, for the people. We should have an official policy to deal with all of these things. It would make it much easier. I would suggest in that policy that these types of agreements shouldn't be made ad hoc, shouldn't be verbal, should be run through a proper committee and dealt with in a proper legislative due process in order to honor the citizens of Libby that you represent. I mean, I get that you're here to do that. I understand. However, legislatively, a due process would present to the people a proper process with due consideration. And again, all of these land use and land issues, property issues come up, and there's no policy. The city of Libby has no policy. You've got plenty of property and different things going on, but no policy to address it. And I would suggest you do that, and thank you for hearing me. I hope it goes to the committee.
Any other public comments regarding this, donating this piece of property to the county? Just state your name and address, please.
Carolyn Buckner, 103 East Poplar. I agree you should be looking at a swap instead of just giving this away. What has the county done for us? We pay for animal control and they're using our property apparently. And do we pay the taxes on this building? Are we paying all this stuff on this building? And also recall when we had one officer, we had to pay the county to help. But they're sitting there, gimme, gimme, gimme. Yeah, I don't think so. Sorry, Ian. I don't think so.
Any other public
So I
comments?
abstain.
Any other public comments, Mr. Orr?
She brings up a good point. The county has always taken advantage of this city at some point, the city has to stand up to the county and say, hey, when are we gonna get something in return? You guys shouldn't be giving land away to an entity that has a ton of money and takes advantage of you on a regular basis, and will be taking advantage of you more and more as they do more developing on the Port Authority property and dumping their sewage into our infrastructure. I want you guys to really watch that so that we don't end up paying to upgrade our sewer plant because the county made a lot of money off of developments. Thank you for letting me speak.
Any other public comments on this agenda item? Any other public comments? Other public comments? Then we'll move on to approval of claims received to date.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
I just, maybe it's probably not even worth bringing it back to the council.
Okay.
Maybe a letter needs to be written to the county.
And you, the
Same.
yes.
What would it say?
Well,
We
I-
would consider trading an
Yeah.
equivalent parcel of land.
an equivalent parcel of land. I mean, you could detail the concerns that Mr. Sykes raised about expanding a building footprint in that location. Say there's not enough appetite for it on the council at this time.
Okay.
I mean, seems like we would just spin our wheels at the next meeting.
Okay.
It's a good idea.
We'll get that
I
together.
mean, huh?
We'll get that together then.
I mean, I think.
What's the response?
I think, well, we need a little more information. They didn't provide a grant deadline. I think Ms. Berger's point about like a long-term lease usually is going to suffice for a grant of some sort. But
And that was what I was actually seeking when I opened the conversation with them.
Mhm.
I was seeking to, it's the only piece of property that we could identify that was still not under some kind of an agreement, use agreement. And so, as I said, I started approaching them about a year ago to try to rectify that, and they kind of pushed me off, and then they came back with this. So.
those are my thoughts.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay, we
Am I
will.
in the minority here?
No, I think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Yes.
I agree.
I didn't know what we
Okay.
were doing there for a minute.
I didn't either. So, okay, we'll take a stab at putting together a letter back to them and send it out for comments. Okay? So now we'll move on to claims. Did everybody get a chance to look at the claims?
Yes, I make a motion we approve all claims to date.
I
Second.
Are there any questions about the claims? Any claims? Other than, what was it, power shock? Or-
Yeah.
So.
Power bill's insane.
So, if you don't have any questions, I'll open it for public comment. Any public comment on claims received to date? Public comment? Public comment, and I will remind you, if you'd like to look at the claims, just come in on Monday is best, and just talk to up front or Leanne or Sam, and they will help you look at the claims. So, since there is no public comment, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? The motion carries. Claims are approved. It brings us to business license applications received to date. Lexi Cleaning and Lena's Cucina?
Cocina.
Casina. Well, I can't. Okay.
I'll make a motion, we approve all business license received to date.
Second.
Okay. Any questions or any public comments on the business license received to date? Is public comment? Public comment? Then all in favor of the two business license?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Business license are approved. Brings us to the discussion of the amend the Libby Development Fund policy. We've talked about how we would kind of like to spend the money. It's sort of done some of that, but we haven't in a while addressed the actual policy. And you have some comments?
I have the old.
You have the old policy, okay?
Need to fix it.
All right. We kind of threw the old policy out because we felt, I believe that we didn't think it was meeting our needs at the time, but we've never been able to agree on how it should be amended. So, do you have some comments?
I don't know that we threw the old policy out, but we could not come to agreement on the changes needed. The piece that everybody was hung up on was using it for historical buildings, as I seem to recall.
That's
Because
what I recall as well.
I think it's open for interpretation the way it's written, and I think it should be somewhat broad for us to make decisions. If we get too specific, then
I think we should take out grants and loans, make that not a part of the policy at all. Use it in the community where it can do the most good for the community itself. And with maybe some development, put some little sheds down at Riverfront Park maybe for people to rent, different things that will do good in the community. It's not doing any good sitting where it's at. And I just think we need to.
I'm sorry. So it's not accruing interest.
Well, it's not a benefit to the community right now.
Okay.
It's not fixing anything. It's not. That is a misspoke. It is accruing interest. So.
I just.
But it could do more.
It's to. I think there's so many things that are unsettled and up in the air right now that spending it all right now unwise.
I wouldn't say spend it all. I would say put some aside for a grant writer. Fix some things. Let's do something on mineral. Everybody. I don't know anybody that says, hey, mineral's great. There's some things in the community that need to be addressed, and this money can help.
Okay.
And I'm not saying spend it all. That's insane. But let's use some of it.
Okay. Mr. Chisholm, do you have any comments regarding our current old policy? I'm not sure if it is still in effect or not, since we kind of started trying to rewrite it.
Well, we never officially adopted a new one.
No.
We're trying to
Rewrite this. Fix it.
I don't know if he doesn't have a comment or just doesn't. So,
Yeah, so I think that's right. I don't recall us having repealed the policy.
Okay.
We identified several areas that we thought could be improved upon, and also that might be a little vague, which is, the conversation you're having now is, instead of being vague, what exactly should it say?
okay. So one of the areas that I had marked from the original policy that seemed to have been questioned was, to that end, the fund shall hereby be used to leverage other monies related to city projects, which the question was, exactly what did that mean? Only projects the city was sponsoring, or projects within the city limits? And then as the other portion that's highlighted as being questioned was grant funds, multi-phase projects, infrastructure. Is it proposed for infrastructure and replenishing the funds? Those are the ones that are marked in yellow going back to that original.
So we got $25,000 to update our downtown plan, right?
Yes.
And so from that plan, we imagine we'll have identified projects that then we can implement in downtown. And so with the list of projects to implement, then we can see what other funds are available to pursue those projects and use our funds to leverage to make our money last longer, go further. That's just one example.
Mm-hmm.
definitely think a grant writer would, grant writer community outreach position would benefit in that position, identifying other grants that it can bounce off of and things like that. But without a person in that position, we're just standing still. Without rewriting this policy or looking at it, we're just, again, standing still, not doing anything.
So a little bit of news. People may have heard that the Port Authority hired an executive director. They have not had one since Tina Oliphant left 3 years ago, which is kind of amazing. It's been over 3 years. And so that individual may also still perform some community development work as the executive director for Kootenai River Development Council. But the individual is new and needs some time to get their feet under them. So that's a potential down the road to sort of kind of go back to the model that the city had worked with KRDC and had an individual that was pursuing those funds.
Right. So KRDC is going to be active again, and we'll work with the city, because I don't think that's been the case in the past with KRDC.
Not since there was no executive director, for the past 3 years. It's a volunteer board.
Right.
So, and it's the kind of organization, it works hand in hand with your economic development organization, which happens to be the Port Authority, and often they share staff.
Right.
So I remain cautiously optimistic if that's the case, and I'll try to. We're going to reconvene. For those of you who don't know, I'm currently the chair of KRDC. I keep trying to get off of that. No one wants to take it, but transition to once that's effective, then I will get off. But hopefully, I mean that would be ideal, right? Because then the city's not using its funds, but we're still getting that professional expertise to pursue the grants, just like we were up until 3 years ago.
I think one of the biggest differences would be that in the past, the city has not really been identifying grants we would like for help in pursuing, and now we're further along that track in having a better idea where to look for them, how to process them, and we could be having better dialogue with KRDC about what we want to see.
I guess we should just discuss if that's something we want to wait on. Or
I think first we need to really actually know that it's going to be beneficial to us, or available to us, I guess is a better word.
Yeah, I just think this is a small town, and we have often run into the problem where people are duplicating efforts, and so it's and then it just creates more problems. So you've got two entities going after the same piece of money, very small, competing against each other. It just doesn't make any sense. We should not be operating in silos, but we should be operating in amphitheaters, working a little more.
Sometimes I think that there's multiple entities doing the same thing because they're not meeting each other's needs. And so if it's not working out, take control, do it in-house. That way you know what's going on.
I'm in favor of bringing it in-house.
Pardon?
I said I'm a big fan of bringing it in-house.
I am too.
Being a part-time grant writer or whatever the case may be. They know the specific needs of the city.
Yep.
Okay. Any other discussion to have on the topic? Okay, then does the council have any general comments from council? I don't actually have any comments to make.
I have a general comment.
Okay.
So, I guess I'm confused about the committee reports. We have members of council that meet with other committees or sit on committees to bring back information to the council. That way you get right to the meat and bones of what happened at the meeting, and it's done and we move on. That's what we have on, I lost wherever my agenda went. Like the health, Kristen is our representative there and gives that report to us. I think I'd like to see that continue along with the study commission. We have a representative on that committee that I think could give the report.
Okay.
That's just my thoughts.
Anyone else have a comment on that?
Not at the moment.
Okay. Any other general comments from the council? Then I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Meeting is adjourned.